Something I find really interesting about the original Star Wars trilogy is how underpowered Luke Skywalker is. Now, it's not like Luke starts from nothing. He does have an important lineage and he does bring certain skills to the table despite his provincial upbringing, but he's certainly not some wonder child or chosen one. He has big shoes to fill, but we don't find that Luke is particularly revered or even that competent. In the first film, we find that he's easily deceived, he gets beaten up a few times, and even the things he's allegedly good at, like piloting, he doesn't perform all that better than his peers. And obviously this is just good character writing. Up until recently, it was expected to start your hero off at a disadvantage so he can learn and grow and become more competent as the story progresses. But Luke, despite appearing like a very archetypal expression of this sort of hero, kind of defies the mold a bit. For instance, the one thing that he's innately good at as introduced in the first film, that is piloting, he kind of gets worse and worse as the films progress. Luke goes from destroying the Death Star to getting shot down at Hoth. Wedge is the piloting hero of that battle, and Luke crashes pretty much immediately on Dagobah. He crashes that speeder bike too, if that counts as piloting. And throughout all three films, Luke is constantly getting injured and he struggles against his adversaries to the very end, whether that be at the hands of Sand People, the Wampa, Darth Vader. He even seems to struggle a bit when he contends with a single scout trooper on Endor, even though he does look pretty cool when he eventually wins that confrontation. And as I mentioned before, Luke does save the day by destroying the Death Star, so he clearly has his share of triumphal moments. But he only survived long enough to do it through the assistance of R2 and Wedge and Han and Obi-Wan's encouragement. Luke needs a team, and ultimately we'll see Luke's accomplishments overall tend to become less extravagant as his powers are allegedly growing. He never tops blowing up the Death Star, and his most epic accomplishment in the next film is taking down an Imperial Walker single-handedly, which is a really cool scene, but it's something that he could only do after getting shot down first. And his climactic combat in Return of the Jedi, where he defeats Darth Vader, is actually his character's lowest point from a moral perspective. Luke really seems to struggle in the Star Wars universe more than any of the other characters. In fact, Luke is constantly getting rescued, arguably more than he rescues his friends. Throughout the films, he's rescued by Obi-Wan, R2, Wedge, Han, Leia, Lando, and Chewie. Even Darth Vader himself rescues Luke. So if Luke isn't some awesome epic dude who's always right and always the coolest and most powerful guy in the room, in what sense is Luke the hero of this story? Because Luke Skywalker is a good person. He has a noble character marked by selflessness, perseverance, faith in his companions, and a compassionate streak that sees the potential for the redemption of evil into good. So sure, Luke didn't have it all figured out when he resolved to rescue Princess Leia on the Death Star, but his willingness to put himself in peril for someone he's never met is the pinnacle of honorable behavior. And Luke messes up big time in his confrontation with Vader, who easily beats him and puts him into a seemingly unwinnable situation. But Luke is willing to die good rather than capitulate to the dark side. And ultimately, Luke's most incredible triumph came about through his relentless moral fortitude, where through inaction and the willingness to lay down his own life to spare the life of his father, he ends up saving his soul as well. Luke Skywalker's story highlights how heroism ultimately lies in strength of character. Luke, despite having his fair share of exciting victories, doesn't become the hero of the story because he's super powerful and gifted and constantly amazing his friends with how cool he is, but because he has a heroic character. In fact, you could make the argument that an awesome, flawless hero is sort of self-defeating, because it's only through suffering and failure that the true heroic qualities are proven. And that's why it's the perfect climax for Luke's character that he doesn't prove his heroism through defeating the bad guys. Let others have the glory there. Instead, he proves his heroism when his moral character serves as a pattern to imitate and to do better and step out of the darkness.